Hello and welcome back to Pharmacist Diaries, the podcast that reveals the secret lives of pharmacists, from where their journeys began, where they are now, and everything in between. I am your host, Anisha Patel, and today I have a special treat for you. If you're interested in moving abroad, a topic that I've been discussing for several weeks now, today we have Diaries on the podcast. She's the general manager at Ravens Recruitment in Australia. I'm super excited to get this episode launched in collaboration with Ravens Recruitment. Heidi and I discuss everything there is about pharmacy in Australia, the variety of roles, where you could potentially live, the licensing process, how to get a visa, the pros and cons of different cities that you could be living in, and so much more. I'm really happy to be able to launch this episode today and share everything that Ravens Recruitment has to offer. In terms of the recruitment process, you will be guided step by step. The initial contact includes a Zoom call where you can discuss what your options are and what it is that you want to achieve. You can send them your CV and a cover letter to guide them along the way in terms of the types of jobs that you want to get. And they even have a visa specialist to support your journey. Ravens Recruitment are also offering a Pharmacy Careers Summit on July 7th. I will link the website in the show notes below so you can register. Unfortunately for us, the timing of the Careers Summit is when we're all asleep. Ravens Recruitment has kindly informed me that the Careers Summit will be recorded and the recordings will be available for up to 8 months after the event is closed. So that means you have plenty of time and opportunity to check out the content and the webinars involved. There's some special events happening for international pharmacists, so it's definitely worth your while registering for the event and then watching the episodes later. I really hope you guys love this episode. Send me some comments, give me some feedback, share your journey if you're moving abroad, and speak to you guys soon. So first of all, welcome to Pharmacist Diaries, Heidi.
Thank you, Anisha.
It's an absolute pleasure to enjoy this conversation with you at 7 a.m. my time. It's around, 4 p.m. your time?
4 p.m, yes.
You're like just about ready to get home. I'm just starting my day. So it's an absolute pleasure to enjoy this conversation with you. Today's episode will be all about a professional life as a pharmacist in Australia, which is really exciting. A lot of my listeners have reached out to me to say that they want to know more about opportunities in other countries. So I'm trying to advocate for that and figure out how we can promote pharmacy careers in different countries. So here we are. Maybe you can start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my name's Heidi. I'm the general manager of Ravens Recruitment. Now, Ravens Recruitment is a specialist recruitment agency for pharmacists. We've been operating in Australia since 1987, and we basically work throughout all different aspects of pharmacy. So we do hospital pharmacy, we do community pharmacy, Australia-wide, and we do a mixture of both permanent roles and locum roles as well.
That's exciting. So that's a good variety in terms of the opportunities and the options available for candidates around Australia. What's pharmacy like in Australia in general?
So pharmacy is a great option for anyone looking to come to Australia. It offers a diverse range of options, I think. Our biggest employer would be community pharmacy, but we also have a lot of opportunities within hospital, aged care industry. In Australia, differs to the UK and some other countries is that you must be a pharmacist to own a pharmacy in Australia. So we don't have pharmacies in supermarkets or areas like that. Every single pharmacy that we have is owned by a pharmacist. About 60% are probably owned by groups. So you'd have our bigger groups being Priceline Pharmacy, Terry White, And they could have hundreds of stores down to your smaller groups with perhaps 10 to 20 stores. There's quite a few of those around. And then the other 40% would just be your standalone community pharmacies just owned by a single owner. In terms of hospital pharmacy, we've got 2 employers within hospitals. So we have our public hospitals or government-run hospitals, and they can be from, very small 10-bed hospitals in remote areas up to your large teaching hospitals in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, and they can employ, 70 to 80 pharmacists on staff at any one time. We also have private hospitals, and they're a big employer of pharmacists as well, and they're located throughout Australia, so you can have those in the cities, but they're also in the rural areas as well. We do have quite a few opportunities in aged care as well. It's a newer area that pharmacists are moving into at the moment, and we have opportunities within aged care as well. So, as I said, lots of different options in terms of, where you can work as a pharmacist in Australia, definitely.
I believe that community pharmacy, in terms of the actual workflow, what opportunities there are in terms of the services that are provided, are relatively similar to the UK.
Definitely. So we have a big push at the moment on forward dispensing, so an increasing scope of practice. So that's very big within pharmacy in Australia at the moment. So looking at get those other services out there, a lot within diabetes education, other programs like sleep apnea, obviously vaccinations coming up as a big one after COVID, and then we're looking at all sorts of vaccinations. So definitely lots of areas within Australia at the moment to increase that scope of practice.
Amazing. And within hospital pharmacy also, from what the research that I've carried out, again, it's relatively similar in terms of being able to get a specialist role as a pharmacist, and, whether you're doing pediatrics or whether you're doing gastroenterology or transplant, you can find a specialty and work as a clinical pharmacist quite similarly to the UK as well.
Yes, very, very similar to the UK in that we have specialist roles available, as you mentioned, paediatrics, different areas. Oncology is always a huge area. We have lots of vacancies for oncology pharmacists. They're always in high demand with production, different aseptic services. Wherever, you can think of, I guess, lots of different, it's not just ward pharmacists and outpatients. There are many different specialties within pharmacy and hospital.
Amazing. Which is quite, it's genuinely quite useful to know that information because when you transition to another country, there's a lot of emotion that goes into play when you have to think about transitioning to what pharmacy looks like in another country. And I've obviously worked abroad before, and the services that are provided within the pharmacy, what we're actually able to do as pharmacists was very different to the UK. So that was quite a big adjustment for me emotionally because I felt like I was taking a step back. And I wasn't able to do a lot of the jobs or tasks or problem solving that I would normally do within the NHS at home. And I am well aware that Australia is very similar to the UK, so that makes it a little bit easier for people to make that transition. It's more comfortable.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Australia in general. Obviously, it's absolutely huge compared to tiny United Kingdom. And in terms of, I guess, living in different areas, there is a huge, vast or opportunity for people to choose different locations. Maybe we should talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Okay. Well, obviously, I think one of the number one reasons anyone would look at coming to Australia is obviously the lifestyle. I mean, number one, the climate, but I mean, the beaches, the rainforests. We've got opportunities. I think the benefit is that we have opportunities in a huge, varied location. So a lot of times when people think of, coming to Australia, they're thinking the vibrant Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and the outback, and there's nothing in between. So I think some of the things I wanted to go through today is just to talk about the variety of different options there are. So yes, there are roles in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, but we've also got roles in coastal towns. So you might want perhaps a little bit more of a flexible work-life balance, a more relaxed lifestyle. So areas like Byron Bay in New South Wales, the Margaret River, Cairns up in Queensland. We have opportunities in all these areas, and they offer that, as I said, more relaxed lifestyle. Come home, go to the beach. It's still light for 2 hours. We also have opportunities sometimes when people think rural Australia, they think tiny little town with 10 people. We do have opportunities in big regional hubs. So places like Geelong in Victoria, Townsville up in Queensland, Albury, New South Wales. So these are bigger regional centres, not generally too far from the capital cities. So you generally get there within 3 to 4 hour drive. And they have populations of 100,000 plus. So you're not in some tiny little remote town, but you're not in the big, huge, 6 million people in the city. And you've got lots of infrastructure there. Sometimes people, I think, worry about whether they're going to have great schools, universities, what are they going to do on the weekends, lots of things to offer. And then, of course, we have obviously outback, really remote Australia, places like Alice Springs, Broome, Mount Isa. The benefit of these types of places, I think, is that smaller, tight-knit community. And pharmacists have a significant impact on the healthcare system. Often these areas might not be serviced with a doctor. Sometimes they might not even have a hospital. So the pharmacist is often that first point of call for anyone seeking advice, and they play a really important role, I think, in education and health promotion in that local community. So I think that's really rewarding for a pharmacist to be able to work in one of those places. So, yeah.
I mean, this is all really exciting because the variety in terms of the lifestyle, you can get anything and everything that you want. I mean, I've had a look online prior to this episode as to where I would potentially want to live if I was to go to Australia. And the coastal towns look, I mean, they're beautiful. And as a mother with 2 children,
Yes.
You can really visualize yourself working and kind of coming home, going to the beach, like you said, going for a swim in the evening. Or if you're like us, we're early risers and you do it all before, the school run. I know there's a lot of nice surfing towns. And if you're an outdoorsy person, and we're absolutely an outdoorsy family, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of national parks as well in Australia, which I wasn't aware of until I started actually Googling on the map. That must be really nice for hiking and camping and all of the other things that you can do on the weekends. So you have the option of that. If you're in your early 20s and you're a very young early careers pharmacist and you don't have the family commitment, you can go into a big city like Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane and enjoy a very, London type lifestyle. Obviously, the cost of living will most likely be more expensive. The competition for jobs will definitely increase. So, these types of concerns you need to take into consideration when you're thinking about moving to another country, and you may find more opportunities in the smaller towns. But like you've said before, that you are able to move around into different jobs. Unlike America, for example, you get licensed per state. Whilst in Australia, once you get your pharmacy license, you are free to move around, which is brilliant if you are a young pharmacist with no other commitments who is free to travel as well as enjoying your career and have that opportunity to see different cities. obviously there's the difference. There are quite big differences in weather as well. Melbourne is similar to England in terms of the colder
Yes.
months and more rain. I believe you can ski there though, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Look, not in Melbourne itself, but
Yeah.
within about
Outside.
a 2 to 3 hour drive of Melbourne, you've got all the ski fields. You've got the
That's
Victorian ski
amazing.
fields that are great. And you've got them just out of Canberra as well. You've got the New South Wales ski fields. And they're great. They offer some great skiing, probably not quite as good as perhaps Canada and Europe and that. But you can be in the sun in the morning and then skiing in the afternoon. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, for long weekends and things like that, those opportunities sound, fab. So there's definitely a lot of options. And then obviously West Coast, I've heard a lot of kind of good feedback about how beautiful it is. The weather is gorgeous and hot all year round. And I guess it's a nice place for families with children as well, in terms of the community.
Yeah, definitely. There's I've travelled to every state in Australia. We've done quite a bit of travelling, my family and I. So I can definitely attest to there's lovely spots in every state of Australia that you can find, and great for families. And as you mentioned before, I'm biased. I live right near the beach. I live within 5 minutes walk to the beach. But on the other side, within 15 minutes, I could be in the rainforest. We've got some great rainforests here where I live. And just having that variety, being able to, as I said, go swimming in the morning and then go for a hike in the afternoon. It's just lovely. A great place to bring up kids, or, if you are young and single, being able to have that variety is just great.
And in terms of location, Australia is in a great place. If you haven't had the opportunity from England to travel around Australia or other, countries, Bali is close by, then you've got that opportunity again for, when you take your holidays from work. You are so close to some really beautiful islands, Philippines, and you've got that opportunity again to travel. I mean, from that perspective, it's a massive bonus.
That's right.
I believe in terms of work-life balance, I think Australia is probably doing better than the UK in terms of work-life balance, and you've got more opportunity outside of work to enjoy life, all these things that we've discussed. But actually, I think from regards to the sort of 9 to 5, you finish work relatively on time. You're not constantly having to work loads of extra hours after the pharmacy's closed to complete the workload for the day. We do have, struggles here with workload and resource, and this also impacts people's stress and work-life balance, which is again reasons why people would like other opportunities or looking for a better quality of life. So I think that's a massive advantage that we should I guess raise in conversation.
Yep, definitely. More and more, I mean, pharmacy is, has traditionally, there are a lot of different competing things, and you do have pressures, and you deal with the public, but ultimately I think people are moving, especially in Australia. What we found I've been seeing it probably over the last 5 years, but definitely since the pandemic, people are opting for that work-life balance. They want to work 36 hours a week. They don't want to work 45. When I started with Ravens 20 years ago, and the average working hour week for a pharmacist was 45 hours a week. Then it dropped over their positions we did last year. The average working week was 36 to 38 hours. So people are opting to, they don't want to, go in at 7 and finish at, 7 at night. They want that balance. And there's a lot more, being community pharmacy, I think we have a lot more options with part-time work. So a lot of the roles that we do fill, they might work flexible, so someone might start earlier and then finish earlier. Other people would start a bit later and then finish later, to be able to enjoy that lifestyle. So, whether you're early riser and like to go to the beach early in the morning, or whether you like to, do something after work, that you do have that option.
I love that. Oh, it's quite exciting. Tell us a little bit about Raven's recruitment and the recruitment process for pharmacists.
Sure. Okay, so as I mentioned, that we operate Australia-wide, and we operate in both the locum space and the permanent space. So we have a team of 10 in our office, and out of that I have 3 consultants that specialise in permanent recruitment and 3 that specialise in locum. So if you are a pharmacist in the UK and you are thinking about working in Australia, the first thing you want to do is be contacting the Pharmacy Council of Australia. That's the very first step. Very easy. They will ask you to provide some documents, and then you'll be most likely put in a stream called the competency stream. And that's an easier stream for UK pharmacists than apply to a lot of other countries. And that's due to the equivalency of our degrees and how pharmacy is in the UK versus pharmacy in Australia. It's very similar. So once you've done that, then you can contact us at Ravens Recruitment. So you pop on our website, you can register your details there. We then set you up an interview with one of our consultants here. And it would be depending on visa options, which I'll talk about in a minute, would depend on the consultant that you speak to, but they'll talk you through the process. They'll find out what your plans are, what areas of work you're looking to, what locations you're looking, what visa you might need to consider. We're not migration agents ourselves, but we do work very closely with a migration agent. So a lot of people, once they do contact us, we recommend them to look at the Department of Immigration and Home Affairs. 2 main visa options. If you're a younger person looking to travel, you'd probably be looking at a working holiday visa. If you're looking for more of a relocation, more long-term, possibly permanent residency, you'd be looking at some sort of sponsorship situation. So we have opportunities in both areas. We can provide sponsorship. The majority of the roles they wouldn't be in Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne, these roles. But we have roles in lots of other areas. And once you have completed your exam for your because with the Pharmacy Council you'll complete an exam, and once you have received notification of that, you'll be told that you'll need to do 4 weeks of supervised practice. So we can help you with that. So that will give you provisional registration, and then once you've completed your supervised practice, then you'll have full registration. You'll be able to work anywhere in Australia, depending on your visa requirements. If you're considering permanent work, as I said, we can find you a role, and that supervised practice will be included. If you're looking for locum work, however, if you're coming on a working holiday visa, you will need to organise that supervised practice yourself, because all our locum roles that we work with take registered pharmacists, so they don't take provisional registration. It's normally fairly easy to set up yourself to get that 4 weeks. So a lot of our pharmacists that do come over would do that in Sydney or Melbourne, set up as a base first. Then you're ready to go, and we can basically get you work all over Australia. So you would start, Sydney, move up to Byron Bay, then up to the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. And with our locum positions, anything outside of the capital cities, your accommodation is fully paid for and your travel expenses are paid as well. So lots of different bonus.
Yes. Oh, that sounds really good. I guess I'll take us back a bit into the licensing process with the Australian Pharmacy Council. Mm-hmm. So the competency stream is great for UK pharmacists, and like you said, it makes it a little bit easier compared to other countries because the degrees are relatively similar. And the application process, like you said, is a few documents, and it's basically they're checking your eligibility and whether or not you're suitable to become a pharmacist from the point of view of your qualifications. I've had a look at the website. The current wait time for that is around 12 weeks. So it's quite useful for people to know that it's a slightly slower process from that point of view. But once you have received feedback in terms of eligibility, you can then register yourself for the exam, which for people who are watching this video, it is very similar to the pre-registration or trainee pharmacist exam when you initially qualify. It is a 70-question MCQ exam. There isn't a specific pass rate for that. Year to year, they make decisions on the pass rate depending on how people have done in general on the exam. And 10 of the questions, I believe, are not counted. They are, I guess, not fake questions, but they're using it for testing purposes to see whether or not they are appropriate for future exams. So there are certain, and you can do it from the UK. That's another thing. The exam can be taken from the UK virtually. You need to go to a test centre. I believe it's a Pearson VUE test centre, which they have all over the country. And it's 2 hours open book. You can use the BNFC, which is one of the resources that we would use as pharmacists here, but also the Australian kind of national formulary for medications would be another option as to something you can use. There'll be calculation questions, clinical questions, but in general, if you're newly qualified, it'll be a piece of cake because you're very accustomed to that style of questioning. And the content is very similar to what people have done very recently for their training exam. So that's really useful. So if you are a trainee pharmacist out there looking to move to Australia or newly qualified, this is actually a perfect opportunity for you to get licensed, because you don't have to study as much as someone who might be 10 years experience, but then feel like they have to kind of go back and rework a lot of the content. Also, from the perspective of visas, like you said, you can, if you're young, if you're in your 20s, you can get a working holiday visa, which at the moment, we are so fortunate, but they are really easy to get if you are in your 20s, early 20s. Actually, my cousin, Nikki, she's not in pharmacy, but she applied for a working holiday visa and it literally came the next day. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, so she moved about a month ago and she's living in Melbourne and she works in HR. So she has just gone on an adventure without a job and she's finding a job once she gets there, but slightly different for pharmacists. But yeah, that option is incredible if you're of that age group. And as you get older, it's a point system in terms of the visas. So depending on your age, you get kind of more or less points. The older you get, the less points you get because you're obviously not going to be able to work as long. I think obviously they take into consideration whether you have a family because obviously you'll be sponsoring other people to, come over to the country. So the sponsored visas or the long-term relocation type visas will probably take a little bit longer than the glorious 24 hours. But the good thing is there's options. And at the moment, because there is quite a large shortage of pharmacists within Australia, the drive for skilled workers in healthcare is huge. So this is, amazing timing, amazing opportunity for people if they're really considering a move abroad. Like this is the time to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I'd agree 100% with that.
Yeah, cool. What's the application process like in terms of jobs for I guess community pharmacy and hospital? We have NHS as our main sort of healthcare provider for hospital roles. So there's a website that you would apply to. You're entering details which come from your CV. There'll be a personal statement that you would normally require, and potentially some other questions about values that fit in line with the organisation that you're applying for. Community pharmacies may be slightly different. It's more an application process with a cover letter maybe, and then we do quite a rigorous interview process here.
Yeah. It's not as lengthy in Australia. We're a little bit more relaxed here, I think.
That's great.
Public hospitals, yes, they are a little bit, there's a bit more red tape you have to go through. with us at Ravens, all you need to do is register online. We need a copy of your CV and cover letter, and then we will do an interview with you. So first we'll have probably a 15-minute chat about over the phone, generally about what you're looking for, where you want to go, time frames, things like that. Once that's done, then we'll do a more formal interview via Zoom, get a bit about your experience, your background, and then we profile you through to employers. So we will come up with a short list, and that's according to your experience, the locations you want to look at, what type of visa you're on. We'll then talk you through those opportunities. So we'll give you everything on the town, where it is, what the opportunity entails, what the duties are, everything like that. If at that point you'll go back and if you talk to family or find out about it, and then we will put you in touch with that employer. So we'll set up like a Zoom interview for you and the employer, normally about 20 minutes, and you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions on their pharmacy, again, what they're looking for, bit of opportunity for them to get to know you as well, what you're looking for, what your motivation is, and that's generally the process.
Much more relaxed than home. It's nice though. Again,
Yes.
like these are all the benefits, aren't they? And I think it portrays what Australia is like in reality. It's a very relaxed place. People are friendly and chilled out and happy-go-lucky. So maybe it's a good reflection of what it's truly like to live there.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any fees associated with the recruitment process with Ravens?
No, completely free to all job seekers who register with us. We don't charge anything at all. There's no cost whatsoever.
Amazing. And I guess I also want to raise the fact that Ravens is hosting a Pharmacy Careers Summit very soon.
That is correct.
Yeah, so very exciting. And actually there is a lot of content that would be very useful for UK pharmacists to listen to or tune into, which relates to the kind of job opportunities in Australia. So definitely worth people checking it out. Maybe you can give us a little bit more detail about the summit.
Yeah, certainly. So the Pharmacy Career Summit was an initiative that was developed by us as an agency. We found there were a lot of different events in the pharmacy calendar, but they were aimed more at people showcasing their products, perhaps, or education for pharmacists rather than focusing on careers. So we developed it's a virtual event. So it'll be held online on the 7th of July. From 10 till 4. During that time, there will be 14 webinars, and we'll have access to 30, all the delegates will have access to 30 exhibitors in a virtual exhibition hall. So some of the sessions all relate to career opportunities for pharmacists. Everything from, we've got sessions on what it's like to work in a community pharmacy, what hospital pharmacy is like. We have a path to pharmacy ownership. So for people wanting to come to Australia and look at permanent residency, that would be an option for them. We've got information. I'm presenting a session. We do a pharmacy salary and market report each year. So that showcases what the latest salaries are for both community and hospital pharmacy, what people are paying, what benefits are on offer. And probably the most important session there's a session in particular aimed at international pharmacists, and we've got specialist panellists on there, and they're discussing in more detail the requirements for registration, some of the differences between community pharmacy in Australia and other countries, and how to navigate that job market. So the event's completely free to attend. And I know obviously the time difference in the UK, we're running it obviously from 10 till 4, so that might sort of be the middle of the night. I would suggest that have a look at the website and do register. All the content, all the recordings, all the webinars will be available for 8 months afterwards on the site. And so if you do register, then you'll be sent an email with the details of how to look at that content. If you are able to attend, on the day, or at least some of the time, you'll have a chance. We've got exhibitors, I mentioned before, in the auditorium, and you'll be able to, they'll have industry representatives on those booths. So a lot will be the banner groups that work, that we have in Australia. So I mentioned before, Priceline, Terry White, we've got national pharmacy groups. So they'll have representatives, and you'll be able to ask them questions about what it's like to work for their pharmacies, what they're looking for in terms of when they're employing people, and what they can offer. So that would be great, but that is live on the day. But as I said, if you can't make it, definitely do still register, because you'll have access to that content for a further 8 months. So.
No, that's amazing. I had a look at the schedule, and it looks awesome. And like you said, there's that specific content for international pharmacists, so that's incredible. And super grateful to hear that the content will be available for a longer period of time, because I think it starts at midnight and it's on a weeknight as well. Yes. So people will be going to work. So a little bit challenging to stay awake for that. So great that the recordings will be available. Where can people find Raven's recruitment and your social media links?
Okay, so the best place is our website. So our website is just ravensrecruitment.com.au. All our social media channels are there. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, but all the content is on our website. So there will be a link to the Pharmacy Career Summit there as well. There's also, you can download it. I mentioned before, our pharmacy market and salary report. So you can download a copy of that for free there. Our 2023 will be released on the 7th of July. If you look now, you'll see the 2022 version. We've also got information. There'll be information for overseas pharmacists on that website as well. Just a brief overview of the processes as we've described today. And just all our jobs are on there, most importantly, all our jobs. So you can pop on there, have a look at what sort of opportunities are available in the different states of Australia, locum, permanent, see what rates are being offered as well.
Amazing. I mean, I will link all of this information into the show notes and on my website, my YouTube channel, so people can find the links easily. And I assume that you're happy for people to reach out to the team for further questions, or potentially a Zoom call just to get an idea of
definitely,
more job opportunities.
There is actually on our website. There is you can see obviously all our team will be there, and you can actually book a career consultation with one of our consultants. Our consultants look after different states in Australia. So if you sort of think, well, look, I was thinking I want to go and work in Queensland, you can book a career consultation with our Queensland consultant, and they'll be able to advise you on what opportunities are available at the moment. So.
Amazing. And depending on the feedback and the traction I get for this episode, I'd potentially like to offer a live Q&A session again for people to have that opportunity to, I guess, ask further questions. But in terms of the time difference, people need to be aware that, like, I've been recording this at 7 o'clock in the morning because you're still at work. So they will have to be up and early, raring to go if they would like to hop onto a live session to ask further questions with my support and yours as well.
Fantastic. No, that sounds wonderful.
No, it was so good to catch up again and have the opportunity to hear more about what Raven's Recruitment are getting up to. And it's so nice to hear more about international working and having more opportunity to work outside of the UK. I'm a huge advocate of that. So I'm sure this episode will be extremely popular for people.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anisha.